welcome to Defen episode number 67. Quite possibly the last episode of this year, or maybe more, who knows?
Are you trying to tell me something here?
I don't know. I mean, we're really good at keeping up with the schedule, as our dedicated audience members, plural, knows. You know, like we're like clockwork, like a disabled clock. Sometimes we do release episodes. So this is episode number 67. This time we went all the way to Latin America. Is it still Latin America?
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Apologies. I mean, my geography knowledge is like negative 70 or something. So welcome to the episode. So my name is Vijay, and I'm currently in Holland, and we have our co-host from the same time zone, Mr. Ray.
Amazing introduction, BJ. Keep going. Yeah,
I know. I'll continue so we can fill up the 30 minutes of bullshit. Okay, I'll stop. So first of all the way from Uruguay. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Juan.
Juan's okay. Yeah, Juan.
The one and only.
Thank you.
Only, yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Juan and only.
Never heard it before.
Yeah. A lot of people pronounce it like one, like the number.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the episode, everyone. Maybe a quick introduction is due for our audience. So, what is happening in Latin America? Latin American Clojure world, and then
¿Cómo estás?
Get into Clojure. Yeah. Is it really Spanish in Uruguay?
Yeah, exactly. In Latin America, it's like mostly Spanish, but Brazil, they are speaking Portuguese. But yeah, Argentina, Peru, Chile, and the rest. Everybody speaks Spanish here.
Is it Spanish, or is it different Spanish?
It's a little different from Spain, but it's Spanish. Yeah, I think.
Okay. Because I heard that I know a couple of colleagues who are working in Spain, and then they keep on telling me the Argentinian Spanish is different enough than Mexican Spanish, and then the movie names and all the titles look completely weird in different places.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I mean, we can for sure understand each other, but we can recognize from where is someone just probably by the accent and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the dialect stuff, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think, if I remember rightly, the words for things like car are different.
Yeah, a bunch of words are different, but we already know. I mean, probably from the movies and all that stuff, we can understand each other. Yeah, in Mexico,
you
it's
just
different.
All speak English. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like in India.
Exactly. Let's just switch to English. Why bother with other languages? Nice. So, a quick introduction about yourself, Juan. What do you do? How did you get into Clojure?
Maybe you should give your full name, Juan, first. Because Vijay is going to totally butcher it. So maybe you do it yourself.
Okay,
that's my superpower.
Yeah. Okay. So my last name is Monetta, but my full name is Juan Pedro Monetta Sanchez. So two names.
Juan Pedro
two Monetta. Yeah. Moneta means like coin in Italian.
Oh, I thought it's like money.
Yeah.
Like the money man. Nice.
Well, he has a history on the blockchain, so we'll come to this.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's written in the stars.
Now we know why you're in this one now.
Yeah. It's like, this is like nominal. What's it called? What's it called? Nominative determinism?
Yeah. Like Eric Norman is
Can you say your name again? The whole one?
The whole one is Juan Pedro Monetta Sanchez. That is how we pronounce it here.
Juan Pedro Monetta Sanchez.
Yeah, great.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
Yeah, habla español.
Yeah, nice.
That's enough Spanish from me. I think.
Muy bien.
Right. No, it's not bien. It's bien.
Wow.
It's muy bien.
Muy bien. But that depends on the country, of course. And
no, I mean,
I'm going local, VJ. Come on. I mean, you should be pronounced Bihe.
Yeah, that's true. I think the worst part is in Dutch IJ is vowel. My name is Vijay, so it's Vijay. Yeah. But IJ is I in Dutch.
Oh, yeah.
So they get super confused. It starts with phi, and then there is nothing else to pronounce because everything else is vowels for them.
Well, doesn't it
sounds like vowel sound?
Isn't it like a pirate sound, like vai?
Yeah, something like that. Actually, I had to tell somebody how I say my name, and then they ended up typing it using a call center or something. And then they typed something like WIEAAYA or something. And then I was that guy for at least 1.5 years and they have to give me some email address, and they gave me that email address with that thing. So, yeah, names.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Well, it's one of the hardest problems in computing, so why should human nature be any different, So.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Juan.
Yeah.
It's time for the introduction.
Yeah.
Welcome to the episode. Okay. We have only scratched the surface of your name so far.
Okay.
Well, you got to get the hard stuff out of the way first, So
yes.
I don't know where to start, but I've been programming like my entire life. I'm 37 now, and I started, I think, when I was around like 7 years old, like playing around with Spectrum like computers and BASIC, and like at that age, I remember like basically like I had a book and I was like just copying programs there and running there, like mostly graphical programs. So like, and I don't know. I started like working when I was like 17 or something like that, and was doing like C and C++ at that time. And I moved into Java after that, and working for like a lot of different projects. And my road to Clojure is like I discovered like in 2004, I think, something around that. I discovered like Common Lisp and and Emacs Lisp also, and Scheme, and I got fascinated by those languages. And I started like I think around 2004 using Common Lisp for all my hobby project and everything I could do in that. And I was using like Java professionally. And and I was always trying to use Common Lisp on my daily jobs, but it was always super risky because I don't know, finding libraries. And at that time, I was working a lot with SOAP web services and all that stuff, and it was hard to find libraries for that. If you are using like cryptography on top of that, or all that stuff, it was super risky. So I kept like working in Java, I think, until 2010 that I discovered Clojure. And it was great. At first, it wasn't, because it was like, well, it's a Lisp, but it's all this Java thing in the middle, and I didn't like that because but then I figured out that it was pretty cool, and I was able to use it for my daily job. So I have been like working professionally in Clojure, I think, around that time, so almost 10 years now.
Oh wow. Nice.
Yeah. One of the original, one of the OGs.
I started OGs. Introducing it at the company I was working at that time, little by little, with some project that weren't didn't have a lot of risk. So small projects, and we started growing from there. I was never able to convince a lot of people in that company, so we were like 2 or 3 doing Clojure, and in a like 20-something people company.
But it always starts like that, right? Like just a couple of people saying, "Oh, it's just going to be, we're just going to start a small project in a different thing." But if you're a Java company already, it helps a bit. Yeah,
but all the Lisp stuff and all the functional programming and all together, and I remember also the tooling because the tooling was a hard one. Because I have been using Emacs from like 2004, I think. So like more than 15 years now. So it's in my muscle memory and everything. But trying
I guess that concludes the episode then. That's all we wanted to know. It's either Emacs or some other shit. And if it is Emacs, then we're done. I think we don't need to discuss anything. We know everything now.
but that I remember.
You've reached enlightenment.
Exactly.
No, but that was a hard thing to back on those days. I was trying to introduce Clojure in the company, because everybody was using like different like IDEs and stuff, and trying to do Clojure without all the paredit stuff, and it was hard, and too many things at the same time, like functional programming and parentheses and editors. And,
so I think can we say that basically Emacs was repellent? Yeah, is that basically what you're telling me?
Well, I think in a way, I think Emacs keeps stupid people away. I don't know. Well, I can say that, I guess. It's been keeping me away, so because I'm too busy configuring that, so not to create enough damage in any other area.
So moving on from Emacs then. So I know you don't want to, but let's please.
We're not moving away from Emacs.
We'll come back to it, I'm sure. Possible. We'll circle back. But now it's kind of interesting that you had such a Lisp kind of background, because I know a lot of people, like you say, they look at, if they've got a Lisp background, they look at Clojure and say, why have you got the brackets? And it's a bit weird. And, you've got this Java stuff, it's horrible, But now you've been doing it for 10 years, and I don't know if you keep doing Lisp stuff in the background, or if you're still hankering after that stuff, or, what's your feeling about that?
No, I completely moved into Clojure. Around like 2011 or 12 or something like that, I completely moved into Clojure, because I think all the ecosystem around the JVM is amazing. And it's also if you compile it, you can compile it to JavaScript, and that's also amazing, because you can work with Node.js these days, and React Native, and the browser and everything. So it reaches a lot of places.
But it is almost like 10, or not almost, I think it's 10 years, right? So in 10 years, what type of applications were working on in Clojure? Is it mostly web stuff, or is it
a lot
of stuff?
No, a lot of different kind of applications. Even like a small compiler, transpiler, or something. I worked for the last company I worked here in Uruguay. We were writing kind of a transpiler from Photoshop files into Java and Objective-C code for drawing UIs. So basically, you by creating, it's kind of
wait. Okay,
that's not a transpiler, is it? That's something else.
No, I mean, we define it a language.
It's not a transpiler; it's a crime.
Now we created that's kind of weird idea, like a friend had, and we got pretty far with it. So we defined a language using names on layers and everything you can do in Photoshop. So we created a language there. So like graphical designers can create like all the stuff they create, but using this language. So basically, if you create a button, you were creating like a layer, call it button, and all that stuff. So we were reading, that was our input, and we were generating Objective-C and Java code for Android, and the Objective-C was for iPhone, for creating the user interface. So for making this thing of like, like picking colors and sizes and everything, and have to do all that stuff by hand, that is kind of repetitive. And we ended up like generating like code for humans. So the first step was running that against some Photoshop files, and then you started working from there, like tweaking by hand, and you forget about the thing. And it was working.
Nice. So you found out that it is way more difficult to make people who use Photoshop to teach them HTML and CSS than to build a Photoshop format reader and then compile and then generate Java code and Objective-C code. That's really amazing. That says something about the people who are using Photoshop. Because I do remember those days. I mean, I remember when I was doing this kind of work a long time ago, they used to give us Photoshop files with splices. They'll split everything and give me small pieces, and then I had to open this particular PNG, whatever, in one window, and then other window I had to code this shit to exactly look like that one. And then they'll keep complaining, yeah, it's Vedana, but it is a bit more different. The kerning is not right. I'm like, oh my God, fuck you. Like, who cares if the kerning is a bit off for this button? But it's a challenge. But I don't think, is it still the case? I'm assuming now that people have settled down for, fuck it, we'll use Bootstrap and then move on, or just use like
God,
default,
come on, no,
default stuff.
That's not the case.
I don't think. Yeah. But yeah, this tool was trying to get rid of or help with all that all those annoyance.
But I think that's still, I mean, funnily enough, we, I don't want to get too waylaid by this, but we have something very similar where what you want to do, and to your point, what you really want to do is you want to take some assets from some designer and then kind of like be able to take those assets, put them into some sort of web form in a, let's say a strong, with high fidelity. So, the images come across the right colors, the right sizes, all these things. And it's kind of tedious to do it by hand at the best, it's tedious to do it by hand. And the placements are slightly off, so if you can automate it, it's fantastic, And I think we've got there's a thing called now I might be butchering this, something like Storybook or something like that, which is a JavaScript storyboard. Storybook. It's like a JavaScript library or framework or whatever, and you can essentially make things like look nice there. And it can take things from design tools, and then you can import that into kind of like native applications as well. So everyone's still kind of trying to solve Juan's problem essentially. It's still unsolved. It's still pretty
It was pretty useful because for the designers just have to, for example, if they were representing like tabs, they just needed to like create a group call it like tab or something, and then inside like other groups for the buttons of the tabs, and the compiler could verify that the language was correctly and give it like errors and everything, so the designer can quickly figure out like I did this wrong and fix it, and with some nice error messages, and then it ended up generating all the code for basic layouts and all that stuff, and some basic constraints, and and then you grab it from there and you tweak it by hand. It's not something like it's going to do everything for you.
It's not round tripping,
But all that stuff was written in Clojure, and
oh wow!
Because and Clojure was great.
Is notoriously crappy, right? I mean,
at the time we were like even adding some Ruby stuff in the pipeline to read from those files, and using something that was like generating JSON and like all that representation in JSON, and we were like processing from there, and from there on was everything like data transformation in Clojure.
I mean, in Photoshop's defense, I think PSD format is one of the most backward compatible formats. So it has a ridiculous amount of junk in it that you need to handle to read through all the stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's not make it a Photoshop podcast.
This VJ proudly sponsored by Adobe.
I wish. I'm not paying them anymore, but I used to. So I used to work for their competitor back in the day, long time ago.
When they had one.
With Quark. Yeah, when they had one, Quark, and then Quark just disappeared, and then good times. Anyway, so that sounds like a very non-typical or atypical Clojure project, right? It's like
I don't know. I mean, Clojure is nice for that kind of
talking about the transformation. So
yeah.
I think it's just
But-
the context that was a bit different. I guess that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a typical web application or anything.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
no.
But it was a structure like a compiler. I mean, we had a parser, and then and we were in each step we were like generating errors and verifying everything, and then emitting something that was basically Objective C code or Java code. And yeah,
nice.
so we even have an emitter, and I mean, it was like structure like the pipeline was like a compiler.
Just like a compiler pipeline. Yeah.
And I had a chance also there to use a lot of generative testing, and that was amazing because I was trying to figure out how to test a bunch of those things. And I was able to use like generative testing for like generate the generating a lot of input. So that the JSON that was the input with all the groups and layers, we were like randomly generating a lot of that stuff and then running it through the compiler. And just before emitting, we were like checking a bunch of invariants and things that should be there and all that stuff. And it was nice. It was nice, yeah.
So what else did you work on then other than this
a lot of things. I mean, there were some web applications. We were also working for like a cinema network, like countrywide cinema network here in Uruguay. So it was a distributed application, and they had like a web page where they sell tickets and the mobile applications and a lot of things. And yeah, and we're using Clojure for some of that stuff. Even like the automated ticket spender machines. I don't know how you call them. Those are still like fully programmed in Clojure.
wow!
So, yeah.
I didn't know that Clojure has this amount of reach in Uruguay.
I mean,
so how many people are writing Clojure in Uruguay? The whole country?
No.
What is happening there?
I think like I don't know now, but there is a company doing Clojure here, a lot of Clojure, I think, and Atomic and all that stuff. And yeah, but that time I think it was like only 2 companies I knew about. So
yeah, but still, I mean, doing that level of projects in fairly new programming language, compared to other industry big names, is pretty awesome though. Nice. So what is your latest project then? So what are you working on these days? I think we should get to the money part now.
So these days I'm working at 2 projects. Like one is just starting working on it, but one of is like one application called Clash that is trying to compete with TikTok. So it's basically social network stuff, and it's
so you're clashing with TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fully written in Clojure script and Clojure. So the cell phone part is React Native Clojure script. And on the back end, we have a lot of things, some of them like in Clojure and some of them in the Clojure script on Node.js because of like Lambda stuff, and was a little better on Clojure script. And but then Clojure. So that is where I'm working on now.
Nice. So that's a pretty massive kind of project, right? To compare with to compete with TikTok.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
In terms of scale and
exactly.
Yeah.
And
I think it's an interesting question because like the government in the US got nervous about TikTok when they sold like 1 million tickets to Donald Trump's one of Donald Trump's events. And then it turns out...
Is it really government, though? I thought it was just Trump getting...
it turns out he's in charge of the government, though. You know, I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know... It's,
well, for a few more weeks.
Yeah, but it's really, you know, he has been there. But anyway, so because the TikTok teens kind of like, and all... What is it? K-pop fans, they're called. All
K-pop
kind of
fans,
like tried to basically... use TikTok as a way to try and register or spread the word for, you know, buying these online tickets, which were free. And they were expecting 1 million people and to turn people away, and they made a different stage and all this kind of stuff. And then no one turned up. And it was absolutely embarrassing. He was mortified. So he actually, it was a crazy thing. He said, "Oh yeah, someone's got to destroy TikTok." And now I think Oracle and Walmart, of all the people, fuck knows why, but get the fuck in there first, because this deserves it. Oracle and fucking Walmart, what the hell are they doing buying TikTok assets? It's just mental to me. Anyway, weird. I think he's a friend of Donald, isn't he? Larry Ellison's a friend of the Donald.
Probably.
Yeah, and I think the Walmart people are friends of the family.
I think the Walmart thing, I read that it's because in China they are using like TikTok to sell stuff. So the people that is like creating the content there can also like, you're looking at what I'm doing and I can sell you this mouse or whatever. So I probably Walmart is interested into that.
It's like the influencer type model.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So but before that, maybe we should talk about the project before that, and we'll come back to the TikTok one, because I think that's really interesting. But the bigger project, I think you ran it for a long time with a friend of mine, Philip, was the blockchain one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was working for a company that's still like they are still creating some stuff that's called District 0x, and we were doing like Ethereum stuff for decentralized markets, places, and all that stuff, and we were also doing everything in Clojure script. And we were using Clojure script and not Clojure because for interacting with Ethereum and all these Web3 JS libraries. The libraries are like much better in JavaScript than they are on the JVM world for interacting with Ethereum. That was like 4 years ago. I don't know this now. What's the status of?
But what exactly is District 0x then? Is it like a
it's a
decentralized contract thingy?
Yeah, we were trying to create and decentralize this marketplaces, but instead of like creating it, like we were. It's kind of complicated to explain, but so basically we created some marketplaces by hand, trying to figure out some patterns to create a tool that was able to give people some functionality, so normal non-technical people can create decentralized marketplaces on the blockchain.
Okay. So that's a completely Clojure script, you said.
Yeah, exactly. We had some server stuff written in Clojure script, and also like they were like single page applications in Reframe, and so the browser part was everything in Clojure script also.
Okay. So if you see like 10 years of evolution of Clojure, beginning from writing Photoshop transpiler all the way to cryptocurrency to TikTok, mobile application, right? Or mobile, or I don't know if it is mobile anymore. It has a bunch of backend services. But if it's not just a mobile app that you release, right? There is a lot of backend stuff that you need to have. So it's like the mobile is just the tip of the iceberg in these kind of applications. It's not something I just download and then disconnect with the network and then I can do whatever I like. So if you see all these kind of things, like if you look back, how do you see your Clojure experience? Like, what did you see? Oh, this is super nice about Clojure, and this is the shitty part about the Clojure. No.
It's still for me a great experience, but I think that the tooling it's still, in my opinion, the part that still needs a lot of improvement. And it's great in one hand that we can use all the Java tooling. All the profilers and a lot of libraries and stuff like that. But in the past, I think I don't know, like 5 or 6 years, I have been always trying to create tools that improve the development experience in Clojure. So I don't know.
But is this the reason why you thought, okay, Clojure needs a better debugger?
I mean, I'm currently working in Clojure and Clojure script, and I'm using Emacs, and I love like Cider debugger.
Yeah.
But it, in my opinion, it has some problems. One of them, it's like one of no problem. One of them is like it's really nice, but then I cannot use it in Clojure script. So when I move to Clojure script, it's not there. So that's kind of annoying. And but also,
I was just going to say, maybe we should back up a little bit because you just threw that in there, VJ. Maybe we should talk about the project that you're kind of working on, which is more than just a debugger. It's it's a tracer and stuff. So maybe just give us a bit of a background about that project and how you came to it and sort of what it's all about.
Okay. I have been working in a couple of different tools in the past years, like this. The debugger is one of them, but there's also one called Clograms. I don't know if you Okay, so I can talk a little about both.
Yes, please.
So Clograms is basically a diagramming tool, but that knows about your source code. Like most diagramming tools, like doesn't know anything about your source code. So the only thing you have is like shapes and lines and all that stuff. So Clograms, it knows about your source, so it can index your entire code base with dependencies and everything, and then you have all that stuff available to you when creating your diagram. So it's much faster. And what I'm trying to do with that, it's trying to create a diagramming tool. So when you approach a code base you don't know, for example, on the Clojure script compiler or something like that, you can have like multi-level diagrams in the same way you have like Google Maps to explore the world. Like this is you can zoom out and see your continents. In this case, it's like zooming out will the idea is to show you like the high-level architecture diagram. And
like the modules or the namespaces.
No, but more like the really architecture diagram, like your machinery, your queues, how everything it's communicating, like big parts. And like you have like this mobile client and this database and this microservice and everything. But then if you start zooming in, you start seeing, for example, if you zoom in into some special microservice, you are going to see the diagram, the architecture diagram for that specific microservice that was created by hand. And if you keep zooming, the idea is you end up reaching code. So you can go in the same diagram from like high-level stuff into like code. Because
but is it something that you draw in the tool itself?
Yeah,
or is
exactly.
It some metadata that you put in
the
code?
The idea is to provide a tool that makes creating this kind of diagram easy. But I would love to approach a project in GitHub, some library or something, and being able to let's scroll back and see, well, this is the big machinery, but I can zoom in and get into like the code itself. So So and Clojure is I think it's a nice language for this because everything it's functions calling functions. So that is nice to represent into diagrams. And then for creating architecture diagrams, you can use like normal tools like shapes, lines, and whatever you like. And but that's something I was interested in.
So so we use Clograms to design and also link the source code essentially. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So Clograms is based on another project I have been working on that's called Cleandex. So Cleandex, it's pretty straightforward. It's something that can walk your source code and all the dependency source code and create facts like Datomic or DataScript facts and index them in a DataScript database. So it's meant to be used as a base for creating other tooling. So then you can create some tooling that instead of like when the tooling wants to know something like an IDE or something about the your source, you can use like data log and pool API and all that stuff instead of talking about like files and text.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so you're still not you're still using your experience of building this compiler, but you're just splitting it out into multiple projects now.
yeah, kind of. So yeah, I mean, Clograms is using Clindex, so it has the all your projects indexed with all the dependencies and everything. So when you are drawing diagram, you can use all this stuff. So instead of having like circles and squares, you can also have like all the functions and namespaces and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's excellent. Yeah.
So see, this Clindex is. Do you know there is a project called Source Graph, right? These days there is this making a meaning of the code, like semantic indexing of the source code. So Clindex is doing something like that. So it's extracting information from your source code and then building up this index to provide you, okay, this is a function, this is a file, all that stuff.
Yeah, and Clindex currently is indexing like everything, every type, every protocol implementation, every multi-method implementation, and a lot of specs and a lot of things.
So it's basically Clojure parser.
Yeah, exactly.
But generating a new
instead of generating like a structure with nested maps or something like that, the idea is generating something like just DataScript facts. So they have no structure, and you can query it however you want.
Yeah. Nice.
So is there a data model associated with it, or is it something which is output into just Eden, or is it you use?
No. It's a model. Yeah. There's a schema like DataScript schema that will say like
Okay. So that is used by Clograms. So Clograms can read this index and then give you the UI elements that you can not UI elements like
but
you can put onto the diagram.
Yeah, exactly. And
nice. Can you track like evolution in the program as well?
Evolution in what sense?
Well, like diffing essentially. So if you see, okay, this is how the program was a year ago, this is how the program is now. Can you see which parts were the biggest change or that kind of stuff, or where the biggest change in the code base was? Or doesn't it compare the two indexes?
Yeah, not currently, but I mean, Clindex just create facts about things, and when you change the original, I mean, if you remove a dependency or just go and change your function, it's going to reindex that namespace, for example, and create new facts about it automatically. So but because
DataScript have a timeline at the moment, though.
No, because it's using that DataScript and not Datomic, and DataScript you cannot have like a history and all that stuff.
What about something
but
like
it could be possible.
Crux? What about something like Crux as a backend, because that has those kind of options as well?
Yeah, I haven't tried Crux yet, but I mean, I have read about it, but haven't tried. Yeah,
it could be interesting. Yeah, because that's open source as well. Yeah, would be interesting.
I think there is. I mean, there is a project I think from Rich Hickey called Codec. That was supposed to do something similar, I guess.
Yeah, but that was I think that was a long time ago, right? When the Datomic was released, this was shown as an example that you can read from the history.
I read that he's still working on it, on a new version, new idea of how to index code. But I don't know. I mean, I just read it.
He's working on Spec 2. Shut up.
Quite possibly. But who knows? I mean, there will be one of the Clojure Conjas, and then he'll have a keynote, and people will get excited and like, hey, there's a new stuff that I thought about.
Yeah.
And then he'll give a word that we need to Google for, and then
we get rich anyway, But I think what you're doing is really good one. You're actually moving things forward in real time rather than hammock time.
I'm doing a bunch of experiments, but I think it's nice to have an index of your source code, because you can even create some Cider plugin or something, so you can use, for example, Cider without using a REPL, because that is like all like statically parsing and indexing. So, and you can get auto completion and references and all that stuff.
Yeah. So how did this lead into the tracing and debugging part of Flowstorm?
No, that's completely a different thing. But yeah, I wanted to try this kind of debugging that is kind of different, because the Cider debugger, stepper, however you call it, it's something that it's going to block your execution and lets you move one step at a time. But because it's like really executing the thing, you cannot, for example, step backwards or jump around in time. Or any of that. So what I'm trying with Flowstorm, it's a trace-based debugger. So it's basically two parts. It's instrument your code, so your code executes and generate traces of everything that's happening. That's one part. And the other part, it's like now we have traces of everything that happened. We can create a tool to analyze them in different ways. So yeah, that's the basic idea behind Flowstorm, and the debugger currently allows you to step through your code execution forward, backward in time, in what I call like in 3 dimensions also. You can move in time. For example, if you have like a loop or something, a recursive functions, you can move forward. So next expression, next expression. But for every expression, you can also like move in another dimension that because that expression in the loop has been executed many times. So you can move in that direction. So take me to when this expression was in its 20th execution or something, and then move forward from there. And so you move in 3 dimensions in that.
So you can skip tracks.
Yeah, exactly. You can jump around in time and to try to figure out what is happening. It also provides you like because one other things that I don't like about Cider is when I'm working with stuff that generates a lot of data, trying to inspect it in the Cider debugger is kind of annoying. We have the Cider inspector that it's amazing. But I don't know. I mean, having it like in a collapsible tree with like some other UI tools, I think it's great for exploring like complicated data structures.
Yeah. Did you check because a couple of episodes ago we had Vlad who was building a Revel thing. So do you see any parallels between them? Because for me, it feels like at least the code exploration part seems to be kind of, there is a bit of an overlap there.
Yeah, I mean, they are both using the CLJ effects library. They are like the same there.
So you owe him a beer anyway, at the very least.
And but I tried this application like Reveal.
Revel,
Revel. However you pronounce it. Reveal. And yeah, it's I mean, it's amazing that they overlap in one thing. I think it's like, for example, you can track how a reference trace how a reference is changing. So you can in Reveal you can watch a reference, and every time that reference change, you are going to see the value updated. But I think I took it one step further in Flowstorm, that you get the history of all the state changes. So you can trace a reference and get the history, and you can move in time by seeing the difference. So you can like clearly see if it's a big data structure and just one number get incremented or something. You just see it like in green there, like the browser one when you HTML
so
inspector.
It's like a DVR or a kind of like a time machine where you can go backwards and forwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Do diffs and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and does it use? Is it using like the Java VM instrumentation API? Is that the idea, or is it doing something higher level?
No, it's higher level. I mean, but I'm about to try like using like a Java flight recorder because so because currently it's just generating traces through a WebSocket, just creating some JSON traces, and that's it. But since the Java Flight Recorder is a platform exactly for this, like for creating, storing or even streaming events but super performantly. But I haven't tried it yet because I was trying something that also works on Clojure script. This also works on the only works on the JVM, but I will try to see what I can.
So, what state is the project in right now? So people can just I don't know, just download it or add it to their project and then open it and then enjoy the state changes in multidimensional way in 3D.
So I have been using it for the past, I think, like 2 or 3 months, like every day in my job. So in my daily job, and it's nice because in this Clash application we have some microservices and the React Native mobile application, and if you instrument everything, then you can just like press a button on the cell phone, and looking at the debugger timeline, you can see like everything in a timeline. So everything you instrumented but ordered, sorted in time, and all that stuff. So for debugging distributed application and figure out what is happening, I think it's great.
Okay, so it's production ready.
So how far does it go down? So let's say, like with React Native has like, a Java front end or an Objective-C front end. So is it at the point where you like where are the boundaries to the kind of tool on the native side, on the mobile side? Where do you hook like in? Where does it all? It's assume like you've got let's say, I don't know, some non-Clojure script bit of code to do some rendering or to do some library or whatever you've used, and that kicks off an interaction. Maybe you've got a QR reader or something else like that you've brought in from Objective-C. So where how does it kind of like know that it's being triggered, or where are the kind of where are the edges of this thing?
I mean, it's instrumentation is pretty straightforward. It's just a macro that walks over your code and generates exactly the same code, but that generates traces. So that's instrumentation. Okay. So you just go and it even has a reader literal thing. So you put trace in front of like a function or something, and all that code gets instrumented. So you only instrument what you are interested in.
Right. Okay, and that's perfect. Yeah.
And also it's pretty nice for React Native because it's we are doing reframe and tracing the database changes. It's super useful. Like,
nice. So, I just want to ask you about because now I know that you're working on tools. That means you've come to a point where this is what you already mentioned, that tooling is one of the things that is the biggest challenge in Clojure development. Language wise or otherwise, like, do you see any pros and cons of using Clojure for 10 years?
Just before we go there, I mean, I think we give him a chance to think about this one, park it a little bit. Just coming back to the flow debugger, okay? Because I think we need to spend another 10 minutes on this, okay? I mean, VJ's not interested, but I am.
No. I mean, who uses debuggers anyway? I mean, we have println and then that's it.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't even need tap anymore. Yeah. Well, I mean, he learned now, tap is like something new. But blah, blah, blah.
Well, in that's one small thing. I mean, it's the Flowstorm is basically print lines, but you don't need to choose where to put them. It will put like them everywhere. So
everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, that's really nice. What I was going to ask you is, like, do you have like a joined up view of things? So, like, talking about like having a native application, a back end application, So some users using Clash to record a video and then they upload their video. I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming that's basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then, do you know, like, well, okay, yes, this particular call is being traced in the Clojure script side, and if I've enabled tracing on the website, then I know it's going to be. Is there a sort of request ID or something like that links everything together?
It doesn't link everything together, but there is something called the timeline in the debugger that can sort everything that gets traced by timestamps. So, yeah, I mean, it's not
but in single
them,
user mode it kind of works. In single user mode it works, but in multi-user mode it's a bit more tricky. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you can use this X request ID normally. That's what we do. We use the X request ID, and then you can kind of flow everything through on a call level.
Yeah, exactly. But that needs you to like add that to your service or something. It's not like a general thing. Yeah, it's
no. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, and then like if you're using some like backend libraries, does it like trace into that as well? So if you're using some JDBC libraries or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, that part. It's not like super well tested. I'm not using it a lot, but the idea it's just grab the source. I mean, when you try to instrument a library from the REPL, it will grab the source and instrument that source and replace the function with the instrumented source. So that's.
So how do you do that?
Is there any?
Sorry,
is there any performance penalty of this one? Because instrumentation so far, I've been using Peter Tassanis profile library so far.
Yeah.
For instrumentation, and then it does this bunch of statistics as well. How many times it is called?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any performance issue here or concern here if we keep adding these traces?
Yeah, I mean, and unless it's not using like Java Flight Recorder or anything now, so for sure you have a lot of performance penalty, but it's meant for development, for figuring out like where it's wrong. It's not meant to code to. I mean, you just add the traces around what you're interested in, and as soon as you figure out the issue, you remove them.
Yeah, you remove it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, on that, if you want to do that, can you sort of leave them in and like put a higher level flag that says, don't deactivate traces, or is it just all opt in at the code level?
No, but that can be done. Yeah. So basically, the macro skips
can be done with I guess that can be done just using some program level configuration, right? Just add if condition somewhere.
Yeah, but it's basically like, so if a flag is set, you convert the trace macro into identity, and it does nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, nice. But it sounds like an interesting project. So,
what about the visualizations of? So on your timeline, the visualizations. How is that? I mean, it's unfortunately we're on a podcast, but. I'll have to get you onto a visual show one of these days. Have you done any kind of like talks or stuff like that where you're showing off the timelines and?
No, I have been thinking about like creating a screencast.
Right. Yeah.
That would be really good. That would make it more more. Well, it's a debugger with a visual medium. So I think it makes sense then because it's not like GDB or something that you need to type P and then N and then just wait for it, like good old days.
Well, when you finish this, do it and then we'll link to it, okay?
Yes.
No pressure.
Next week.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. No, it's a very impressive bit of kit, I think. And, it's one of the things I was wondering what you thought about, like, Vijay's talking about the kind of evolution of Clojure. And, the thing that I've noticed in my, my experience with Clojure over the last, I don't know, not quite the 10 years, but, a long time. And is that everything has become more data oriented, and I see these tools like Reveal and like Flowstorm and what's the other one? There's another one. There are various projects that are sort of just suddenly emerging, suddenly flowering all around, like revealing data and showing traces and stuff like this. This seems to me the next frontier in Clojure, actually. It's getting below the sort of surface of spec and below the surface of language and doing what you're doing. Is that something that you feel also? Is that it's like this is like reachable now? Did something change in like 1.9 or 1.8 to make this possible, or is it just you've just got the time to do it, or the itch has got stronger?
No, I mean, I even started creating this like 7 years ago.
All right, okay.
there is I started trying the idea. There is a project on my GitHub there that's called X-Ray, and I was doing exactly the same, but for the traces, I was trying to draw a tree of execution, and I was trying to have a different approach on visualizing traces.
But isn't it something with I'm not sure, is it Clojure 110 or something, the data fi thingy showed up, and then that could be one of the triggers, that is supposed to be one of the triggers to expose everything as data, and then you could use that one.
That is something I has also been planning to use. The DataFi protocols there.
But again, that requires changes again, doesn't it? I guess, as more and more libraries start to support those kind of like nav DataFi type options, then more options open up for the tool maker.
So I think we can go back to the question.
You can ask your question now. Yeah,
exactly. So we can edit out all the questions that Ray was asking, and then we'll just make my question as the most important one. So a quick reflection on because we are almost an hour now. A quick reflection on working on several projects, and then working in Clojure community, and then building tools. So what do you see as the pros and cons in Clojure, and then where do you see yourself going? Do you think Clojure is going to be your next 10 years language, or how it will evolve?
Good question. Clojure for me, it's still like the what I feel more comfortable with as a general purpose language. I think the one of the thing that maybe makes me choose like one other language, it's probably performance, depending on the context, project, on the kind of project, because with all the complexity happening on the chips this day, with all the cache pipeline and branch predictions and all this stuff, and it's that really makes a difference if you can lay out your data in memory, and currently we don't have any way of doing any of that from Clojure. And there are some stuff coming to the JVM, to the Java language, all these value types and all this stuff. That is one thing that's but I don't know how that can end up in Clojure either. But I think there are some projects, if projects really need performance, since you cannot do any of this in Clojure, you cannot express the idea of how to lay out stuff in memory. And I don't think it's the idea of the JVM either. I don't know.
I think it probably because we are reliant on JVM pretty much, and then whatever the improvements JVM is bringing will show up in Clojure, and at the same time JVM becomes the least common denominator for us. That's what we can have.
Well, I think we have to be careful to write it off, though, because they're putting a lot of time and effort into optimizing these things. And like you say, value types are coming, these kind of things. There's all this stuff to do with lambdas and various type of hooks. That I think the part of the problem, I think you mentioned yourself, Juan, is that it's actually quite tricky for like languages like Clojure to pick up on some of these things. Not because they don't exist, it's just because the bang per buck, there's a tipping point. There's some point where there's enough features in the JVM that make it attractive to go below the kind of just transpiling to Java or to bytecodes, or maybe make the bytecodes change slightly differently. Because obviously Clojure transpiles to bytecodes. So maybe Rich at some point, or the compiler people, which is Rich basically, there has to be enough benefit for him to change that thing. And let's say that comes in, I don't know, Java 12, or no, Java 12 is already there. Java 15 or 25. I mean, it's already there. Yeah. I mean, they're releasing every month, So Java, 25, it's not there, is it? Is 25 there yet? Just released yesterday. Yeah.
Maybe it will be by the time we publish this episode.
So let's say Java
pace.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we're still on JDK 8. We're just about we're just closing the gap to get to JDK 11. Yeah. And that will be I think a lot of projects will be on JDK 11 for another 5 years.
Yeah.
So my guess is that getting people to actually adopt all of these kind of things in the Java world is it's 10 years away, I think, to be honest.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I think the new features at the language level are always complicated, right? I mean, but if there is a improvement at the JVM level, then it's always backward compatible. So it will probably speed up your shit. That's the underlying thing. But the language features themselves, you can't use them. Yeah.
Yeah, this all this that used to be called fibers, and now they're calling virtual threads or something like that. That's probably going to be amazing. I mean, writing code as green threads, and then code as performant as when you write async code, but don't having to deal with all the async await stuff. It's amazing if that happens.
Yeah. So what's the other language you're kind of looking at in that sense then, Juan?
I was looking at a little at Rust and and also C. I mean, C, it's always an amazing language. Yeah, and I also really like to do stuff on some very amateur, but I like to do electronics and microcontroller stuff and all that. And C there, it's it's easier to reason about because it's easy to reason about the assembly it generates and all that stuff. I think it's a little harder on Rust, but it's possible.
But hey, I mean, the advantage with switching to C is that all your projects already have C in them. So, the naming is not going to be a big problem.
That's
true. You can say Clindex is basically C index. C line index. That's nice.
That's true.
He's thought about it.
And one feature I'm really waiting. I think everybody's waiting for it. It's a spec in the new version of the spec in Clojure. Because I kind of stopped using
spec 3?
Or spec whatever. But I stopped using spec lately because it was about to change, and I was waiting for that. And I don't know. And now I'm not using spec.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating.
So you're using anything else as a replacement for spec?
No, nothing now.
The stuff from okay.
And the only thing I have experience with it's spec. I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's really frustrating when like you say, we know that it's wrong, so it's going to change.
Yeah.
And then you have to either satisfy yourself with a subset of it, which is a little bit frustrating, or like you say, you just think, well, the payback is just not high enough. Because this is I think the point about Stu and Rich saying, well, you get documentation, you get generative testing, you get this, you get that, you get the other. You actually often you do have to put more than just the vanilla effort into getting all of those things back. At least that's what we found. You do have to write your own generators, you have to write your own this, you have to write your own that. Things don't just come out of the box, as they say. I think you have to be careful how you sell this thing. But it is really a fantastic concept. But we need the new one. Otherwise, like you say, it's going to just end up being abandoned. Which is a shame.
Yeah,
that would be a real shame.
I mean, if
the worst thing is more like not abandoning, but it is showing up. But by the time the community has moved away, and then nobody is adopting it,
that's
is going to be
essentially the
much
same,
worse.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to use the current version knowing that it's all the next version is almost there. So it's like
yeah.
But sometimes almost
like
there is a lot of years. So
yeah, probably you probably heard it like the Osborne effect or something, right? There is this computer lore, like there is a laptop company, I think it's called August Osborne or something. They released one laptop, and then the next day they announced that, oh, next version is going to come next whatever, summer or something, that's going to be double whatever. Then all this inventory, nobody bought this shit, and then they went bankrupt because they pre-announced the next version is going to be there. So I think it's Osborne itself.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
That's why Apple keeps everything secret, isn't it? Because they don't want that effect. Anyway,
exactly.
Yes, back to Juan. Okay.
Yes. So
what's the pros and cons of Clojure, Juan? We get back to that question feature.
So we heard some cons. No, well,
I think
cons.
the pros and cons of closures are the pros and cons of every piece of Clojure. I mean, because it's a Lisp, almost no one's knows. It's not. A lot of people doesn't feel comfortable with it. Then if you want to hire people, it's a little harder. And because it's dynamically typed, it has all the cons of dynamically typing, but also all the pros. And so I'm hoping like spec helps a little with all this stuff, like with making it easier to figure out what kind of parameters something or what's the shape of the data that's a function is receiving. And it's a group. I mean, because it's functional programming, it has the pros and cons of functional programming. Like at performance, it's an issue. Sometimes you need to go into imperative programming. But it's amazing that you have all these escape hatches in Clojure. I mean, you can always you start high level, and if you need to go to write like JVM bytecode or Java or something, you can do it. So that's amazing.
Yeah, there's always an escape hatch.
Exactly.
And I mean, you've got these other things coming up with Graal VM as well, which is another interesting kind of option in terms of deployment.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So any other projects that we missed, Juan, from your open source repertoire?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm always experimenting with stuff, and all this stuff I just mentioned, it's experimental. I mean, it's I'm using it every day, but it's of course it's not. I mean, I think trying something like Flowstorm, it is a good idea, since like it's something like Java Fly Recorder is also trying. I mean, generate a lot of traces and a visualization tool, so it's not something.
No, I think it's something. It's a great, solid idea. Very solid idea. Yeah, it's really good, and it's nice to see these sort of things coming through the Clojure ecosystem as well. So we don't have to go down to these low-level technologies. You're doing great work there. I think I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That's nice. Yeah. Because I think that, as you said, initially when the language shows up, there are libraries. That is the first thing that that people say, okay, these are the things that are lacking, because you have the language, but you can't. You have to build everything yourself, which is not really a good beginner experience. But Clojure being on JVM and JavaScript, that problem is more or less offset, because you can use a lot of libraries that are existing already. And then the next problem is obviously the tooling. How can people use different kind of tools to get started and also debug? And then when you're working in the code, you need to have these quote unquote professional tools to deal with it. Of course, I mean, Clojure has always been like a wishy-washy, like, if you have a println, why do you need? You have REPL, so you don't need anything. So this kind of bullshit is always there on Twitter by somebody we know.
And the REPL is an amazing thing, one of the biggest pros in Clojure, and I think there's also room for a lot of improvement there, and I'm glad like projects like Reveal are trying to like rethink what's REPL. I mean the what else they can add to REPLs, and
exactly.
Totally agree. Yeah.
But I think people like you who worked on different types of Clojure projects and saw the shortcomings, and then building tools for it, and then encouraging community to view these tools in a different way and then build these things. That is something it's really appreciated, right, in the community. And because these kind of things come only from experience. Because if you're starting with a programming language, you're not going to think about, okay, what kind of debugging I would need here. That only comes after you have gone through enough pain of debugging different projects. And then you extract the experience into tools. So that's what I think. It's really valuable, the kind of things that you're putting out there. So keep doing great work, and then I'm pretty sure the people who are listening to this, check out Flowstorm on Juan's on GitHub. We'll link to it, or we'll tweet about it as well. Take a look at it, and thanks a lot, Juan, and for joining all the way from the other side of the world.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And that's it from us for this episode. We'll maybe see you this year or maybe next year. Who knows? Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DefN. And the awesome vegetarian music or the track is Melon Hamburger by Pizzeri. And the show's audio is mixed by Wouter Dullert. I'm pretty sure I butchered his name. Maybe you should insert your own name here, Dullert.
Wouter.
If you'd like to support us, please do check out our Patreon page. And you can show your appreciation to all the hard work or the lack of hard work that we're doing. And you can also catch up with either Ray, with me, for some unexplainable reason. You want to interact with us, then do check us out on Slack, Clojurian Slack or Clojureverse, or on Zulip, or just at us at DefN Podcast on Twitter. Enjoy your day and see you in the next episode.